Hello, it's Sammy here, and today I have someone that has been on the channel before, football finance expert KIERAN Maguire. First of all, KIERAN, how are you?
I'm very well, Sammy. Good to be on the show.
Thanks again for coming on. And now, one thing that I wanted to start the conversation on was something that happened about a week, 2 weeks ago, which was Man City getting away and with their ban, their Champions 2 year Champions League ban it's gone down to a 10 million euro fine. That's the punishment that they've got. First of all, I wanted to ask, what was their appeal based on? Because of course we know that they will be in the Champions League next year, but what was their appeal based on? What was their argument really?
Well, Manchester City argued that the case put forward by UEFA was inappropriate. The accusation by UEFA was that Manchester City had inflated some of their sponsorship income.
Hmm.
City denied this. UEFA made the accusations, and UEFA's panel, adjudicatory panel, found Manchester City guilty. Manchester City took it to a higher court, which is the Court for Arbitration for Sport, based in Lausanne in Switzerland, and the court there found in favour of the club.
And of course, a lot been made out about the use of financial fair play and where does it stand after this. But for you, where does financial fair play stand? Does it really hold that respect anymore because of this decision?
Um, Financial fair play has helped in terms of the finances of football. I think
Hmm.
UEFA are claiming a huge amount of credit for the impact it's had on the game, and I don't think it's had that as much as UEFA are trying to make out.
Hmm.
But it has meant that the likes of Manchester City and PSG have spent money broadly on similar levels to their peer group, the likes of Barcelona, Manchester United, Real Madrid, and so on, whereas potentially they could have spent far more. So in that regard, financial fair play has worked. Where does it go in future? I think UEFA need to need to reflect on it on the ruling. We've not seen the details yet,
Hmm.
and I'm hoping that those will come out from CAS in the next week or so. UEFA's options is that they can either reform the rules, they can abandon financial fair play, or they can say, in their opinion, that the present form is still working and they will just continue as before. But I think that might be difficult given that both Paris Saint-Germain and Manchester City have both overturned the accusations made by UEFA over the course of the last 2 years. And the critics of those clubs will say it's due to the fact that they've got a lot of money.
Hmm.
City and PSG will both say, well, we were wrongly accused in the first place, so we've just defended ourselves.
And a lot of people have been speaking about, Chelsea got what was it, 2-3 window transfer window ban for their activities. Why? What punishment constitutes a transfer ban? What constitutes a Champions League ban? Well, what's the difference in terms of what they've done in terms of clubs?
Well, Chelsea's transfer ban was in relation to the recruitment of young players, and
Hmm.
there are safeguarding issues here. And the accusation against Chelsea was that they disregarded some of the rules with regards to young players coming to the club and signing for the club.
Hmm.
And on the back of that, they were given a tariff. Now, the panel who make the judgments have a variety of things. It's a bit like if you or I went to court, and hopefully we won't ever have to do this, and we're accused of something, we could be fined, we could be given a suspended sentence, we could be thrown in prison, we could be given a banning order from going to certain places, and so on. So it's up to the people making the decision to apply what they consider to be an appropriate punishment to the crime. And sort of reading the what we have seen from CAS, and it's only been a sort of a 1 or a 2 page summary to date, they said that some of the evidence put forward by UEFA was out of date under UEFA's own constitution. The evidence shouldn't be more than 5 years old, so some of it was already out of date when UEFA gave the ban, and some of the other evidence was, in the words of CAS, was inadequate. So they therefore decided that they couldn't go ahead and they couldn't back the punishment that was given by UEFA, and they reversed the ban. And in terms of the fine, I mean, the fine was very severe. Initially, it was 30 million euros, which was linked to City not cooperating with UEFA, and that was the biggest fine that UEFA had given for about 5 or 6 years. Ironically, the previous people were Manchester City and PSG, but that fine was reduced by 2/3 to 10 million euros.
And one thing that we spoke about last time you were on here was, because it was before the Premier League had started, there was discussions of all games being live on Sky and live on Freeview TV, and that they decided all 92 games which should be aired live on TV because people won't be able to go to stadiums. They've also announced that all next season they won't be going ahead with this, and it will be the normal TV model. Why do you think that they've decided to do this to the broadcasters?
I think the Premier League want to send out a message that some form of normal football is going to return in the autumn. It looks as if the season's going to start on September the 12th. There was an announcement which came out from the Premier League yesterday, with a view to crowds returning in October/November. Now, it could be that what they will say is that for the first 2 months of the season, because matches are taking place behind closed doors, they might renegotiate that relationship they have with the broadcasters, and everything will be shown. Because otherwise, I think it will be frustrating for fans who are, I mean, I've got a season ticket at my club. I'm looking forward to seeing my club play, and to not be able to do that. I mean, I go home and away to games like many fans. It is an anomaly. It is a frustration. So the Premier League could be practical until we get some form of matches taking place before a paying audience. But as soon as that occurs, the last thing the Premier League want to do is for people to say, well, why should I go to the ground and watch the matches if it's going to be live on TV? So they want to have some form of compromise arrangement. And also that they have signed a contract with Sky and BT to show just under half the matches. Now, if they end up giving away all the matches to Sky and BT, I think the Premier League will feel that they're not getting the right side of the bargain. When the next TV deal commences, which is in 2022, it could be that we see more matches being available to broadcasters than has been in the present 3-year arrangement that we have with the senior broadcast partners.
And of course, it's been announced that October is supposedly the date as to when fans start to gradually return to stadiums. How do you think Premier League clubs compared to Championship clubs will fare in terms of their financial security from now until October?
The clubs should be fine, and the reason for that is that the first tranche of money from the broadcasters for 2021, my understanding, will have already been received by the Premier League, and what happens is the Premier League acts as a clearinghouse. It takes money in from the broadcasters and then it distributes to the clubs. So if the money involved, they get around about, I think, 50 or 60% of the total broadcast money is distributed during the summer. So we are talking there in billions. The broadcast deal is worth £3 billion a year. So even if half of that's been received, £1.5 billion split between 20 clubs, 1,500 divided by 20 is that's what £75 million per club. That's going to be more than enough to see them over the summer to pay the wage bills, and the clubs will also have their sponsors paying for the next season's sponsorship arrangements. So I don't see Premier League clubs having a problem. I am concerned about issues in the EFL. The TV deal is considerably less lucrative. The clubs are already losing money to a much greater extent than the Premier League. So you put those two things together, and it is far more precarious.
And one club in the Premier League that was spoken about highly, and there was a lot of talk about the club, was Newcastle last time we spoke because of the Saudi Arabia deal and how they were apparently getting bought out by Saudi Arabian royal family. What's happened to that? Because it's gone quite cold at the moment. So do you think that's just it's the quiet before the storm almost?
Well, it appears that the potential owners have paid a deposit of £15 million to Mike Ashley. So they wouldn't have done that. Even a rich person wouldn't write out a check for £15 million unless they had a genuine expectation of getting something for it. The reason why we've reached an impasse is that the Premier League has something called the Owners and Directors Test, and the Owners and Directors Test looks at two issues, one of which is, does the prospective owner have the money to fund the club? Clearly, if it's the Saudi Arabian investment fund, that is the case. And then there is an issue of criminality. And whilst there is no evidence that the prospective owners have any outstanding convictions themselves, they're all above board, there is an ongoing dispute between Qatar and Saudi Arabia, which has meant that the Qatari broadcaster, beIN Sports, has been banned from Saudi Arabia, and there's accusations of the Saudi Arabian government allowing piracy of Premier League rights to take place in that country. And the Premier League is saying, well, if that is the case, then potentially that is a criminality issue, and therefore the Premier League is looking into this in more depth. But it has dragged on for a ridiculous amount of time. And I think the one thing that everybody wants, Steve Bruce as manager, from his recruitment perspective, the players in terms of where are they going to go next, there'll be players out of contract, but most of all the fans, the fans have had a fairly rough ride under Mike Ashley. There's been a breakdown in relationship between him and the fan base, and I think the fans deserve some reduction of this fog. They need, as in all aspects of life, we like certainty, and what we have with the situation in Saudi Arabia and Newcastle is confusion.
And one thing that you mentioned was the transfer window. It opens in the 29th of July, running till 5th of October. We spoke about how there wouldn't be as much of like a coronavirus tax on transfers as was spoken about for the high level transfers, and that's what seems that's happened. When you're talking about the multi-million-pound transfers that Chelsea and Man United are going for, they seem like similar prices. It could be the players lower down that will be available for cheaper. Is that probably what you're looking at?
Very much so. If we take a look at the transfer talk, and that's not really an area of mine, I tend to deal with actual finances rather than speculation, but the transfers that we have seen to date this summer, the likes of Timo Werner and so on, have been at the prices you would broadly expect. Chelsea triggered the buyout clause fee in respect of Timo Werner. And the elite clubs, especially if they are backed by high net worth individuals such as Roman Abramovich, or they've got sovereign wealth funds such as Manchester City supporting them, they are in a position to write out the checks because they have so much money. The coronavirus impact is relatively minor to them. For the clubs below that particular tier, who have been hit significantly by the coronavirus, I think there's two issues. The players that they will be looking to sell, they won't be able to get as good a price for. And also, because they've had a lack of cash come in over the course of the last 3 to 4 months, they won't be in a position to buy because they've got no money to do so. So the non-elite club market will be significantly impacted by what we have seen from the pandemic over the recent months, and for the foreseeable future as well.
And one club that is struggling right now in the Championship is Wigan. What has happened and what has gone so wrong at Wigan?
Well, Wigan Athletic Football Club are the victim of activities which have taken place in Hong Kong and the Philippines.
Mhm.
Wigan were bought in November 2018 by the International Entertainment Corporation, and that seemed strange at the time. Why would a casino and hotel buy a football club in the Northwest? It looked as if at the time it was a gamble. To be fair to IEC, they did underwrite the losses of Wigan, but Wigan was starting to drag down the parent company given the extent of the losses. So they sold it, and it looks initially if they'd sold the club to the owner, another company he set up, and that appeared to be okay. And then a couple of weeks later, somebody else took over this new organisation called the Next Leader Fund and bought Wigan for, effectively paid £41 million for Wigan, and then immediately, or practically immediately, put the club into administration. There's no way that you would buy a business for £40 million and then put it into admin. So there is more to this than meets the eye. Wigan Football Club are the unwitting victims of some form of corporate shenanigans taking place in the Far East. The imposition of the 12-point penalty, which was immediately triggered after their match earlier this week, seems to have no humanity in it whatsoever. It just seems that the accountants at the EFL are saying that's the rules that we're going to apply them, and the whole thing is a complete mess. And there's a total lack of satisfaction. There does appear to be issues with regards to governance at the EFL because Barnsley Football Club put out a statement late yesterday, which was very damning in terms of activities of other clubs in that division.
And you spoke about how the Premier League almost have like a vetting system for owners being able to buy clubs. For the Championship, is it similar, or how they allowed this to happen almost?
It is similar. I mean, to be fair, for the Championship, the rules are broadly the same as those of the EFL. The EFL did see that the new owners of Wigan had money, and there was no outstanding criminal issues, so therefore they sanctioned the deal. The trouble is, the new owners, whilst they did have money, they then refused to pay it to support the club, to pay the wages, and on the back of that, the club went into administration.
Yeah, and is this also a case of not owners that haven't had previous football ownership experience coming in and buying a club? Was that almost strange at the time as well?
Not really, because we've seen the likes of the Fosun Group from China by Wolverhampton Wanderers, and Wolves are now a successful Premier League club. And it could be that IEC saw what had happened at Wolves, decided that they could replicate that at Wigan, and they weren't successful in doing so, so they decided to get out quick. So the problem with football is it is a fairly unique industry. It does involve a lot of understanding and nuance, and many people who buy football clubs, they think because they've been successful in their own business, they will automatically be successful as owners of a football club, and that's simply not the case. That there's far more going on in football than people realise.
Well, Kieran, thank you for coming onto the channel. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Any plugs that you would want to add?
Well, if anybody likes the finances of football, I do have a regular podcast, goes out twice a week, called The Price of Football, with comedian Kevin Day. I've written a book with the same name, The Price of Football, which is aimed at football fans who want to get a broader understanding of what's going on. And if you like that type of stuff, give me a follow on Twitter. I am The Price of Football man there as well. So thanks very much.
Yeah, be sure to follow Kieran on Twitter. They'll all be in the links in the description below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you later.